So Jesus is trying to say, tax collectors even hate their enemies. This is no big deal. I'm asking you to do something different. And if you only greet your brothers, brothers means people you're friendly with, and particularly inside the Christian church, the word brothers means other believers. Okay? What are you doing that's more than anyone else? Don't even pagans do that. There's two words, pagan and heathen, which the New Testament uses. A pagan is somebody who knows what's right but doesn't do it. A heathen is someone who doesn't know any better. They've never even heard. So they're kind of ignorant to what they ought to do. But a pagan knows what they ought to do but doesn't. So even pagans know that the hate my enemy thing, and Jesus is saying that's no big deal. Anybody can do this. So we're supposed to be perfect. That's what your spouse thinks, right? You're supposed to be perfect. Be perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect. It doesn't mean flawless. It doesn't mean sinless. Perfect means complete or whole, mature. And part of that maturity is forgiving people and praying for people who are our enemies. This is tough. I'm telling you it's tough, but this is where we're going. Okay? These are the words of Jesus. The most famous section of the Sermon on the Mount. Every religion around the world will quote Jesus as saying this. You should love your enemies. This is very famous. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's famous. More than that, this is the one section of the New Testament which takes Christian ethics to a whole new level. Ethics meaning this is what we ought to do, what ought to be true. Christian ethics, all of a sudden we went from level 2 or 3 or 4, now all of a sudden we're up to level 8. This is really pushing the limit because Jesus is asking us to take people personally who have offended us, people who are our enemies, and He's asking us to pray for them and to love them in spite of the way that they've treated us. Like I said, have you ever met them? That's the idea. Everybody knows these are the words of Jesus. He's quoted throughout various religions as having said this. So, but what does it mean to us in Orlando? Okay, what does it mean in France to love my enemies? Oddly enough, there have been times our countries haven't been exactly the most friendly to each other. Okay, we stole your French fries and you got mad. That's what happened. But the reality is, what does that mean? What does it mean to love people that some people would say are our enemies? The English language is confusing, and those of you from France, learning English has probably not been the easiest thing you've ever done. And that's because we have some words that mean 2 or 3 things. That's cool. Cool. Can mean cold. Can mean really acceptable. Oh, she's fat. P-H-A-T. Come on, am I right? Ooh, that's slick. No. Groovy? Where did that one come from? We have a lot of words which mean more than one thing. Yesterday, my son said to his sister, "You're a nut."
It's true.
But Jessica from France went, "Nut? What kind of nut?" You know? It means you're crazy. Right? One of the words we use just means lots of things. Is I love. I love pizza. I love my wife. Hopefully, I love my wife more than I love pizza. But if it's a really good pizza, it narrows the gap. Right? And we use the words interchangeably in meaning lots of different things. The Greek language was much more specific. 4 kinds of love in the Greek language. The first is called storge, which is the kind of love you have for your family. I love my brother differently than I love my children. It's a different kind of family relationship. And I love my wife differently than I love my parents. Okay? Okay, so the second kind is eros, which is romantic love. This is the kind of love you fall into. Happened to me in the fall of 1982. I was walking through the student center, and this hot mama walked by me the other way, and I said to my roommate, "She needs me." And my roommate Dave said, "About like she needs cancer." Well, I married her. All right? Okay, but you just can't help falling in love, romantic love. The third kind is phileo or philia, which is brotherly love. We have a city called Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And then there's agape love, which some people think means unconditional love, but it doesn't. It means unconquerable love. It doesn't mean unconditional. It doesn't mean I just love you and let you do whatever you want. It's unconquerable love. And the reason it's unconquerable is because it's a choice that I make. And the word that Jesus is using here is love your enemies is agape. It's not just have no boundaries, let them do whatever they want. He's saying have an unconquerable love for your enemies. In other words, you choose to love them in spite of how they've treated you. And the goal here is for us to make a conscious decision. Jesus would never want us to love our enemies the same as we love our family. Why? Because that would be impossible. And Jesus, God doesn't ask us to do things that are impossible. He asks us to do things that with His help are possible. True? So Jesus wouldn't expect us to look at our enemies and go, oh, well, I love you just like I love my family. No, that's not what He's saying. He's saying agape love them, not storge love them, agape love them, an unconquerable type of love. Some of you are saying, well, I don't understand. Well, falling in love is something you can't help. You wake up, 3rd grade, cute girl, cute boy in class, you're in love, right? Remember when that happened? Same thing. As you get older, it's falling in love is something you can't help. But this is not what Jesus is talking about. Agape love is an act of the will. It's a choice to love you even though you might not love me back. Even though you may not even like me. So agape love has boundaries. It has conditions. And the reason Jesus is using the word is because it's above our natural tendencies. If you do me wrong, tendency is for me to cut you off, right? Or to stonewall you out. Keep you out of my life. What is it? Slap me once. Remember that? Slap me twice, though. Stupid me. Okay, well, the idea here is that agape love is you could slap me 100 times. I can still choose to love you, even though you might not love me back. Okay, so it goes beyond our natural tendencies. It's a determination in your mind that even though there may be people who mistreat you, that you will still treat them with respect. You will still treat them appropriately. Doesn't mean you don't acknowledge when they're doing it. Doesn't mean that you like it. It just means that you choose to not retaliate. And that is really, really hard. It's hard for me. It's the ability to love people even though they may not even like you. And I don't know how to tell you this, but there are some people I don't like. But you're a pastor. You have to like everybody. No, I don't. I have to agape love everybody. But I don't have to like everybody. I got fired from a job. I don't like those people. I'm not going to walk in and go, hey, let's go get a burger. I'm not going to do that. Because I don't want to see those people. They hurt me. I don't wish any ill on them. That's agape love. Just stay over there. I'll stay over here. Okay? See you when we get there. But I don't have to sit down and spend time and be all, gooey with them. Because that's not right. Jesus doesn't expect that. He expects me to have some boundaries and some parameters and say, look, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to stay over there. Okay, so there are some people that don't like you too. I'm sure there's a list somewhere of people that don't like me. Probably in this room. And that's okay. I still love you. That's what Jesus is asking us to do. We might not agree, but we can still love each other. And this was really classic in our country in November when we voted. I'd never seen anything more of a divide, even among God's people. But we can still love each other, even though we disagree. Even though we disagree. And 4 years from now, we'll get to vote again. Agape love does not allow people to do whatever they want. You can't do that to me. You can't keep doing that to me. You can't do that to my children. Because that's not agape love. Agape love says, there's the line. Don't cross the line. I'm sorry, now I got to move over here. Stay over there. And then they come here and you say, it doesn't mean you're just oblivious to what people are doing or how they're treating you. It means that however they treat you, you still choose to not retaliate, to love them even though they may not love you back. That is really, really hard. True, or am I lying? True. Parents, raise your hand. You have boundaries for your kids? Yes. You're mean. Yeah. Why? Because you love them. That's right. Because you tell them you love them. That's how you tell them. Don't do that. Every generation must find out for itself that the stove is hot.